The Awakening. Max Thompson rubbed his eyes and blinked at the bright morning light streaming through his bedroom window. It was just another Tuesday in his chaotic life as a college student, filled with late-night study sessions and early morning classes. He glanced at the clutter around his apartment, books stacked haphazardly, empty snack wrappers scattered about, and an old dusty device sitting on his desk. What even is that thing? He muttered to himself, pushing aside a pile of clothes to get a better look at it. The device was small and circular, covered in strange markings that looked otherworldly. Max remembered finding it at a garage sale a few weeks ago, along with a bunch of other cool junk. He thought it might be a fun conversation starter at parties. Curiosity got the better of him. He picked it up, examining it closely. "What do you do, little gadget?" he mused, turning it over in his hands. Without thinking, he pressed a button on the side. Suddenly, the room filled with a blinding light, and a wave of energy surged through the air. Max stumbled back, his heart racing as the device whirred to life. Just as quickly as it had started, the light faded, leaving the room eerily silent. "Hello," he called out, feeling a strange chill creep up his spine. Before he could process what had just happened, a figure began to materialize in front of him. Max's eyes widened in shock as he realized he was not hallucinating. There, standing in the middle of his room, was a stunning alien woman with shimmering green skin, long silver hair cascading down her back, and eyes that sparkled like stars. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice melodic yet firm. Max's jaw dropped. I'm Max. Who are you?" "I am Lyra of Vorten," she replied, her gaze piercing yet filled with curiosity. "You have awakened me from my slumber. Thank you." "Wait, you were asleep," Max stammered, still trying to comprehend the situation. "Like, asleep. For how long?" "Centuries," Lyra answered, tilting her head slightly. "I was placed in stasis to protect my kind from those who would seek our powers." Max shook his head, trying to clear the fog. "Powers? What kind of powers?" Lyra stepped closer, her presence commanding yet comforting. "My kind possesses abilities that can manipulate energy and matter. I was hidden here to prevent our enemies from finding me." "Wow, that's incredible," Max said, excitement bubbling inside him. "But how did I wake you up?" Lyra pointed at the device in his hand. "That artifact you found must have activated the stasis chamber. You must be cautious. It is a powerful object." Max felt a mix of awe and confusion. "This is insane. I mean, what now? Are you okay here? I mean, you probably need a place to stay and food. I can help with that." Lyra studied him, her expression shifting from serious to curious. "You are kind, human, but I must learn about this world. It has changed much since I last saw it." "Right. Well, you're in for a surprise," Max said with a nervous laugh. "Let me show you around. We have a lot to cover." As they began to explore the small apartment, Lyra marveled at the mundane objects that filled Max's space, his video games, clothes, and kitchen gadgets. Her eyes widened as she picked up a remote control. "What is this strange device?" she asked, turning it over in her hands. "That's a remote control for the TV," Max explained, trying to suppress his amusement. "It changes the channels." "Channels?" Lyra echoed, clearly perplexed. "What is a TV?" Max chuckled, realizing he had a lot of explaining to do. "Oh, you're in for quite the adventure, Lyra. Welcome to Earth." As he spoke, he felt a strange excitement growing. This was going to be a wild ride. A roommate like no other. Max watched as Lyra examined the remote control, her brow furrowing in confusion. He couldn't help but laugh a little. It was clear she had a lot to learn about Earth's quirks. Okay, he said, trying to suppress his giggles. "Let me show you how it works." He took the remote from her and turned on the TV. As the screen flickered to life, Lyra gasped, her wide eyes reflecting the colorful images. "What magic is this?" she breathed, captivated by the moving pictures. "It's not magic. It's technology," Max replied, flicking through channels. "This is a television. We watch shows, movies, and news on it. It's a big part of our entertainment." Lyra leaned closer to the screen, her green skin shimmering in the light. "Entertainment. Yeah, like things to keep us amused," he explained. "Here, watch this." He landed on a reality show filled with drama and laughter. As the characters bickered and cried over trivial matters, Lyra burst into laughter, her melodic voice filling the room. "These beings are absurd. They fight over such trivial things." Max couldn't help but join in her laughter. "You have no idea. This is a mild episode. Just wait until you see the drama unfold." After several episodes and lots of snacks, Max realized it was getting late. "Okay, Lyra, time to hit the hay. We have classes tomorrow." "Classes?" she repeated, looking puzzled again. "It's where I learn things. You'll come with me. I can explain everything. You'll love it," Max replied, enthusiasm bubbling in his chest. "Very well, I will join you," Lyra said, a hint of determination in her voice. "But first, I must learn how to fit in." "Don't worry, we'll figure it out together. For now, let's just get some sleep." As he settled onto his side of the bed, Max felt a mix of excitement and nerves. Sharing his space with an alien was surreal, but he was also thrilled about the adventures ahead. Lyra, meanwhile, took a spot on the couch, wrapping herself in a blanket that was comically small compared to her size. The next morning, Max woke up to the smell of something sweet wafting through the air. He rushed to the kitchen, only to find Lyra hovering over the stove, trying to cook breakfast. "What are you doing?" he asked, stifling a laugh. "I am preparing food," Lyra replied, her green face lighting up with pride. "This breakfast is essential for our day, yes." Max watched as she tried to crack an egg, but it splattered everywhere instead. Maybe I should help with that." "Help? But I can do this," she insisted, puffing out her chest. "Right. But let's just say cooking is an art form," he chuckled. "Here, let me show you." As he stepped in, the two of them created a chaotic scene in the kitchen. Flour flew everywhere, and the eggs slipped from Lyra's grip, landing on the floor with a splat. Max couldn't stop laughing as he saw the mess they were making. "Oops." Lyra giggled, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "It appears I need more training in this art." "Definitely. But it's fun," Max replied, wiping flour off his face. Their laughter echoed through the apartment, creating an unexpected sense of warmth and familiarity. As they finally managed to make a somewhat edible breakfast, they sat down together, enjoying their messy but delicious meal. "Now that was an adventure," Max said, grinning at her. Lyra looked at him, her expression softening. "Thank you, Max, for accepting me into your home." "Of course. You're my roommate now," he said, feeling a flutter of excitement in his stomach. As they finished breakfast, Max could sense the growing bond between them. This was just the beginning, and he couldn't wait for what lay ahead. With Lyra by his side, he felt like anything was possible. Little did they know, the real adventure was just about to begin. Discovering powers. After a chaotic breakfast, Max and Lyra headed out for his first class of the day. As they walked through the bustling campus, Lyra's eyes widened at the sights and sounds. Students rushed by, laughter and chatter filled the air, and the scent of freshly brewed coffee wafted from the nearby cafe. "Is this what your world is like every day?" she asked, looking around in wonder. "Pretty much," Max replied, his heart swelling with pride for his planet. "It can be chaotic, but it's also exciting." As they entered the classroom, students stared at Lyra, their jaws dropping in shock. Max quickly introduced her. "Everyone, this is Lyra. She's, my new roommate." The professor raised an eyebrow but smiled. "Welcome, Lyra. "We're glad to have you." Taking a seat in the back, Lyra began to absorb everything around her. Max watched as she took in the lecture on physics, her expression a mix of confusion and intrigue. After a while, she leaned over to Max and whispered, "Why do they care about objects moving?" Max chuckled. "It's about understanding the universe. It helps us build things, travel, and even, well, make things fly." "Fly?" Lyra echoed, a glimmer of excitement in her eyes. "Do you mean like I can?" Max smiled, intrigued. "You can fly." "Of course. I just need to awaken my powers," she replied, her tone confident. After class, they decided to head to a nearby park. The day was warm and sunny, perfect for exploring. As they found a quiet spot under a large oak tree, Max turned to Lyra. "So how do you awaken your powers?" Lyra grinned, her eyes sparkling with determination. "I can sense energy. All I need is focus." She closed her eyes, raising her hands, palms up. Max watched, unsure of what to expect. A faint glow began to emanate from her hands, growing brighter as she concentrated. The air around them tingled with energy. "Whoa, that's amazing," he exclaimed, a mix of awe and excitement in his voice. Suddenly, a gust of wind swirled around them, lifting leaves from the ground and swirling them into a mini tornado. Max's heart raced with exhilaration. "Lyra, this is incredible. Can you control it?" "I can try," she responded, her voice steady but filled with excitement. As she focused, the swirling leaves formed a delicate dance in the air. "Wow, that's so cool. But maybe let's tone it down a bit," Max suggested, glancing around at the curious onlookers. "You don't want to draw too much attention." Lyra chuckled, a mischievous smile crossing her face. "What's the fun in that?" Before Max could respond, Lyra sent the leaves cascading down like a gentle rain, creating a beautiful spectacle that left everyone around them in awe. "See, I can control it," she said, beaming with pride. "Yeah, but maybe let's save the big shows for later," Max said, grinning. Lyra nodded, still filled with excitement. "I want to learn more about my powers. I feel like I can do so much more." Over the next hour, they experimented with her abilities, with Max offering encouragement and ideas. He suggested simple tests, like lifting small objects and creating shapes with energy. With each successful attempt, Lyra's confidence grew, and so did her bond with Max. "I can feel the energy around me," Lyra explained, her voice brimming with enthusiasm. "It's like a part of me. I just need to learn how to manipulate it better." Max clapped his hands, excited for her progress. "You're doing great. Just think about what you want to achieve." "I will," Lyra said, her expression serious. "But we should also learn about your world's dangers. I must protect you, Max." "Dangers?" he asked, feeling a sudden chill at the thought. "Yes," she said, her tone shifting to serious. "There are those who seek my powers. We must be cautious." Max's heart raced, but he nodded. "Okay, let's be careful. I want to help you too." As they walked back home, Max felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. The world was suddenly so much bigger, and with it came challenges he had never imagined. But with Lyra by his side, he felt ready to face anything. Together, they were bound for an adventure like no other, and Max couldn't wait to see what lay ahead. Trouble in Paradise. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple, Max and Lyra settled into their evening routine. The day had been exhilarating, filled with laughter and discovery. However, an unshakable feeling of unease hung in the air. They were watching another episode of their favorite show when a sudden loud bang echoed outside. Max jumped up, heart racing. "What was that?" "I do not know," Lyra replied, her eyes narrowing with concern. "But I sense something off." "Let's check it out," Max said, grabbing his jacket. The two rushed to the window, peering out into the dimly lit street. A group of shadowy figures stood at the end of the block, their voices low and menacing. "What are they doing?" Lyra asked, her voice tense. "I don't know, but we should be careful." Max felt a knot form in his stomach. "Stay back. I'll go take a look." "No," Lyra insisted, stepping forward. "I can sense their energy. They mean trouble." Just then, one of the figures looked up, revealing a sinister grin. Max felt a chill run down his spine as the stranger pointed in their direction. "Run," Max yelled, pulling Lyra back from the window. They sprinted down the hallway, hearts pounding in unison. Max led the way to the back exit of the building, glancing over his shoulder to see the figures moving closer. "Who are they?" he gasped, trying to catch his breath. "They feel familiar, almost like they belong to my world," Lyra said, fear creeping into her voice. They burst through the back door and into the alley, where the fading light made the shadows seem even darker. Lyra turned to Max, her expression resolute. "I need to confront them. They could be a threat." "Are you sure?" he replied, worry lacing his tone. "What if they're dangerous?" "Trust me, Max. If they are from my world, I have to protect you. I cannot let them hurt anyone," she declared, determination shining in her eyes. As they stepped into the open, the figures emerged from the shadows, revealing themselves as a group of rough-looking aliens. Their skin was a dark shade of blue, and their eyes glowed menacingly in the dim light. "Lyra," one of them called, a sneer twisting his face. "We've been looking for you." Max felt a surge of fear for his friend. "What do you want with her?" he shouted, stepping protectively in front of Lyra. "She belongs to us," the leader hissed, taking a menacing step forward. "You have no idea what you're dealing with, human." "Stay back," Max warned, his voice shaky but firm. Lyra stepped forward, her expression fierce. "I am no longer yours to control. I have found my place here, and I will not let you take me." The aliens laughed, a low guttural sound that sent shivers down Max's spine. "You think you can resist us? You're just a weak human, and she's just a lost child in our eyes," the leader taunted. Without warning, he lunged at them. Max instinctively raised his arms to shield Lyra, but before he could react, she stepped forward, raising her hands. "Stop," she shouted, her voice booming with authority. A wave of energy radiated from her palms, pushing the aliens back as if they were caught in a powerful wind. Max stood in awe as Lyra's powers manifested, the air crackling with energy around them. "Lyra," he yelled, amazed and terrified. "You did it. Get back," she commanded, focusing her energy. The aliens, now wary of her abilities, hesitated. "We will not forget this, Lyra," the leader spat, retreating with his group. "You cannot hide forever." As they disappeared into the shadows, Max exhaled sharply. That was intense. Lyra turned to him, her eyes wide with both fear and adrenaline. "I didn't want them to find me. They're dangerous, Max. We need to leave this place." Max nodded, his mind racing. "But where will we go?" "I have an idea," she replied, her expression determined. "We need to find a safe place where I can fully train and control my powers. We need to go to the abandoned observatory on the outskirts of town." "An observatory?" he asked, puzzled. "Isn't that risky?" "Risky, yes, but it's hidden and perfect for our training. We'll be safe there," Lyra insisted. Max could see the resolve in her eyes and knew they had to act quickly. "Okay, let's do it. Together." As they made their way toward the observatory, a sense of urgency filled the air. The thrill of adventure was overshadowed by the reality of the threat they faced. But as long as they had each other, Max believed they could overcome anything. The chase. The night was thick with tension as Max and Lyra raced through the streets, their footsteps echoing in the empty alleys. The moon hung high above them, casting an eerie glow that illuminated their path. They had to reach the abandoned observatory before the alien group found them again. "Are you sure you remember the way?" Max panted, glancing over his shoulder to check for any sign of their pursuers. "Yes, just follow me," Lyra replied, determination fueling her speed. The fear that had gripped her earlier had transformed into fierce resolve. She was ready to confront whatever dangers lay ahead. As they turned a corner, the observatory came into view. It loomed ahead like a forgotten relic, its once majestic dome now covered in vines and moss. "There it is," Max shouted, a mix of relief and excitement coursing through him. But just as they approached the entrance, a voice boomed from behind them. "Stop right there, Lyra." They froze, their hearts racing. The leader of the aliens stood there, flanked by his companions, their eyes glinting with malice. "You can't escape us. Run," Lyra yelled, grabbing Max's arm and pulling him toward the entrance. They dashed inside just as the aliens lunged forward, their shouts echoing in the night. Inside the observatory, darkness enveloped them. Dust motes danced in the beams of moonlight streaming through cracked windows. Max quickly fumbled for his phone, using the flashlight to cut through the shadows. "We need to find a place to hide," he whispered urgently, his heart pounding in his chest. Lyra nodded, her eyes scanning the room. "Over there." She pointed to a staircase leading up to the dome. "We can hide in the observatory's control room." They climbed the stairs as quickly as they could, the old wood creaking under their weight. Just as they reached the top, they heard the sound of heavy footsteps echoing below. "Lyra, come out and play," the leader's voice taunted, filled with malice. "You can't hide from us." Max felt a chill run down his spine. "What do we do?" he whispered, panic creeping into his voice. Lyra's jaw set in determination. "I need to focus. If they find us, I'll have to use my powers to defend us." Max nodded, understanding the gravity of their situation. "But be careful. We don't know what they're capable of." As they crouched in the dim control room, Lyra closed her eyes, channeling her energy. Max watched in awe as her hands began to glow faintly. "I can sense them," she murmured, her brow furrowing in concentration. "They're getting closer. Keep focusing," Max urged, glancing nervously at the door. The weight of the moment pressed heavily on him. They had to outsmart the aliens. They couldn't afford to be caught. The door creaked as the leader and his companions entered the observatory. "They must be up here," he shouted, his voice echoing through the empty space. "Search everywhere." Max held his breath, his heart pounding as he heard footsteps climbing the stairs. Lyra's glowing hands flickered, and she opened her eyes, panic briefly flashing across her face. "I can't hold it much longer." "Just a little longer," Max replied, desperate for a plan. "Maybe we can create a distraction." Lyra's eyes widened with realization. "Yes, I can create an illusion. It won't hold for long, but it might buy us time." "Do it," Max urged, feeling a rush of hope. With a deep breath, Lyra concentrated, her energy pulsating. Suddenly, a bright flash erupted from her hands, illuminating the room. In an instant, the space was filled with multiple images of Max and Lyra, each one darting in different directions. "What is this?" the leader shouted, confusion rippling through his voice. "They're everywhere." "Now let's go," Lyra shouted, grabbing Max's hand. They dashed toward the opposite exit of the control room, hearts racing as they made their escape. But just as they reached the stairs, the leader regained his composure and bellowed, "Don't let them get away." Max glanced back and saw the aliens charging after them. "Hurry," he shouted, urgency fueling their speed. They sprinted down the stairs, desperate to reach the safety of the ground floor. Lyra's illusions held for a few moments longer, but Max could feel the energy waning. "We have to split up," he yelled, formulating a quick plan. "You go left. I'll draw them right." "What?" "No," Lyra protested, her eyes wide with fear. "It's the only way," Max insisted. Trust me, I'll be fine. Just make it to safety." With one last look, Lyra nodded, determination hardening her features. "Okay, but be careful." Max took a deep breath and bolted right, sprinting away from her. He could hear the aliens gaining on him, their footsteps echoing in the dark. He had to buy Lyra time to escape. He glanced back, adrenaline pumping through his veins, and whispered to himself, "This isn't the end, the showdown." Max dashed through the dimly lit hallways of the observatory, his heart pounding in his chest. He could hear the aliens closing in behind him, their heavy footsteps reverberating through the walls. He had no idea where he was going, but he needed to buy Lyra some time to escape. Turning sharply into a narrow corridor, Max spotted an old control panel covered in dust. It looked like it hadn't been used in years. In a moment of inspiration, he rushed over and frantically began pressing buttons, hoping to trigger something that might slow the aliens down. As he fumbled with the controls, a low hum filled the room. Lights flickered on, casting a pale glow over the space. Suddenly, a loud siren blared, filling the observatory with noise. "Hey, over here," Max shouted, his voice echoing. "Come get me." The aliens skidded to a halt. Confusion etched across their faces. The leader turned toward Max, a sneer twisting his features. "You think you can distract us with some lights and noise? You're just making it easier for us." "Maybe," Max replied, his bravado faltering as he realized he was trapped. He had to think quickly. "But I'll fight you with everything I have." With that, he dashed down another hallway, hoping to create enough distance between himself and the aliens. The siren continued to wail, and he could hear their angry shouts behind him as they pursued him through the labyrinth of the observatory. Meanwhile, Lyra was racing through the forest behind the observatory, her heart heavy with fear for Max. She could feel the connection between them, a tether of energy pulling her back toward him. Have to go back, she thought, determination flooding her veins. Just as she reached the edge of the clearing, she could see the observatory's silhouette against the moonlit sky. She could feel Max's energy fading, and it spurred her into action. "I can't let him face them alone," she said to herself, her resolve strengthening. As she turned back toward the building, she felt her powers surge within her. She would not let fear dictate her actions. She would fight for Max and for their chance at freedom. Back inside the observatory, Max's escape route led him into the main chamber, a vast room dominated by the massive telescope that once peered into the depths of space. The atmosphere crackled with tension as he realized he was cornered. The aliens had arrived, and they surrounded him like wolves stalking their prey. "End of the line, human," the leader taunted, stepping forward with a malicious grin. "You're outnumbered and outmatched. Just give up now, and we might let you live." Max straightened his posture, fear coursing through him, but refusing to show it. "I'll never give up," he shouted defiantly, clenching his fists. "You think you can just come here and bully us? You're wrong." The leader's smile faded slightly, replaced by a look of irritation. "You talk big for someone about to be eliminated. Your friend cannot save you." At that moment, a loud crash reverberated through the room, and the door burst open. Lyra stood there, her hair billowing behind her, her eyes glowing with fierce determination. "You're wrong," she shouted, stepping forward. "We're not afraid of you." Max's heart soared at the sight of her. "Lyra, you came back." "Of course I did. I won't let you face them alone," she replied, her voice steady. "Together, we can take them on." The aliens looked bewildered, caught off guard by her sudden arrival and the confidence she exuded. "Foolish girl," the leader snarled. "You think you can challenge us? We'll crush you both." Lyra raised her hands, a surge of energy radiating from her palms. "You have no idea what I'm capable of," she declared, her voice echoing with power. "Let's show them," Max added, feeling his own adrenaline spike. As they stood back to back, Their connection deepened, the air around them shimmering with energy. The aliens charged forward, their snarls filling the room. But just as they reached Max and Lyra, the duo unleashed their combined powers. A blinding flash of light erupted from their hands, slamming into the group of aliens and sending them flying backward. The force of their energy rattled the walls, and Max could feel the surge of power coursing through him. "We can do this," he shouted, feeling emboldened by Lyra's presence. Lyra nodded, her eyes focused on the leader. "We fight together." The leader regained his footing, his expression twisted with fury. "You think you can defeat me? I'll show you the true power of my kind." With a roar, he lunged at them, but Lyra was ready. She raised her hands, channeling all her energy into a barrier that flickered to life just in time. The leader slammed against it, the impact sending shockwaves through the room. "Now!" Max yelled, and they pushed forward together, unleashing their energy in a wave that crashed into the aliens like a tidal force. One by one, the aliens fell, their shouts of anger turning to fear as they struggled against the combined might of Max and Lyra. They fought with everything they had, determination fueling their every move. As the dust began to settle, Max and Lyra stood side by side, breathing heavily. The aliens were now scattered on the ground, defeated and groaning. "We did it," Max breathed, looking at Lyra in awe. "Yes," she replied, a triumphant smile breaking across her face. "But this isn't over. They'll be back, and we need to be ready." Max nodded, his resolve strengthening. "Together, we'll face whatever comes next." As the moon shone down upon them, they knew they had found something powerful, not just in their abilities but in their bond. They were ready to face the challenges ahead together. A new beginning. The observatory lay in ruins around Max and Lyra, the echoes of their recent battle still ringing in their ears. The defeated aliens, now mere shadows of their former selves, were bound by the energy barriers they had conjured together. As the dust settled, Max and Lyra exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of triumph and concern. "We can't just leave them here," Max said, stepping cautiously toward the aliens, who were trying to regain their composure. "They're dangerous, but we should find out what they really want." Lyra nodded in agreement. "We need to understand why they attacked us in the first place. Knowledge is our best weapon now." Approaching the leader, who was groaning on the ground, Lyra summoned a small orb of energy, its light illuminating her determined face. "Why did you come here? What do you want from us?" she demanded, her voice steady and commanding. The leader winced but met her gaze. "We were sent to capture the human with the powers," he hissed, struggling to sit up. "Your abilities threaten our plans. The Council wants to harness your power to dominate the galaxy." Max's heart sank. "So you're saying we're a target? For what exactly?" The leader's sneer faltered, and he spat on the ground, his eyes burning with anger. "The Council believes that with your powers, they could enslave every race and conquer worlds. You would be a tool for their empire." "Not if we can help it," Max said firmly, stepping closer. "We'll never let that happen." Lyra, still holding her energy orb, turned to Max with a fierce look. "We can't just fight them here. We need a plan. We can use the knowledge we've gained and turn it against them." Max took a deep breath, his mind racing. "What if we gather allies? There have to be others who oppose this council. We can unite them." Lyra smiled, her eyes lighting up. "That's a great idea. If we can show others what we can do, we can form a resistance. We can't let fear control us." As they strategized, the leader of the aliens glared at them. "You think you can unite the galaxy? You'll fail. The Council is powerful. You'll never succeed." Max and Lyra exchanged a determined glance. "Watch us," they said in unison. With their minds set, they began to search through the observatory's old archives, hoping to find information about the Council and its plans. The room was cluttered with dusty monitors and forgotten technology, but they pressed on, feeling the surge of energy that urged them to succeed. After hours of searching, Lyra discovered a hidden chamber beneath the observatory. "Max, over here," she called, excitement lacing her voice. She pulled aside a heavy metal door, revealing a control room filled with holographic displays and star maps. "This must be where they monitored the galaxy," Max exclaimed as he stepped inside. Lyra activated one of the screens, and a holographic image of the Council appeared, their cold faces flickering to life. "This is it," she breathed. "We can track their movements and gather intelligence." Max's eyes widened. "We can see where they're planning to strike next. This could give us an edge." Working together, they began to compile a list of potential allies and strategic locations to set up their resistance. The more they learned, the more they realized the extent of the Council's reach. "We need to act fast," Max said, urgency in his tone. "We'll gather our allies and then strike against the Council before they can target us again." With newfound purpose, Max and Lyra set out on their journey. They left the observatory, the horizon stretching wide before them, filled with possibilities. As they traveled, they met various beings, some wary, others hopeful, who were eager to join their cause. Each encounter strengthened their resolve, and they shared their story, building a network of resistance. As days turned into weeks, Max and Lyra forged alliances across planets, creating a diverse team of rebels united by a common goal. Their bond deepened with each challenge they faced together, transforming their friendship into something much more profound. But the threat of the Council loomed over them like a dark cloud. With each passing day, they prepared for the inevitable confrontation, knowing it would test not only their powers but also their friendship and trust in one another. Finally, the day came when they received word that the Council was planning an attack on a peaceful planet that had agreed to join their cause. They gathered their allies, a motley crew of beings from all corners of the galaxy, ready to fight back. As they stood before their assembled forces, Max looked at Lyra, his heart swelling with gratitude and love. "No matter what happens today, I'm glad we're in this together." Lyra smiled, her eyes sparkling with determination. "Together, we'll face whatever comes. For the galaxy, for freedom." With their rallying cry echoing through the ranks, Max and Lyra prepared to lead their newfound allies into battle. This was not just a fight for their lives. It was a fight for the future of every being in the galaxy. And together, they would stand strong against the darkness, ready to forge a new beginning.